Not every act of kindness begins with honesty. And not every lie is born from greed. Sometimes, it comes from fear. Hunger. A baby's cry in the middle of the night. She wasn't trying to trick a billionaire. She was trying to keep her child alive, and the world had stopped listening. But what she never expected was that her one desperate message would land in the hands of a man powerful enough to ignore it, and kind enough not to. This is the story of a mother who bent the truth to open a door. And what happened when the man on the other side chose to walk through it? When you're down to nothing but silence, even a lie can sound like a lifeline. It was nearly midnight. The baby's cries had faded into hoarse whimpers. His tiny fists curled against an empty blanket. The heat hadn't come on in hours. She'd wrapped him in her only winter coat, her own arms shivering as she stared at her cracked phone screen. 6% battery. Her food stamps had run out last week. The food pantry had closed early. She'd asked friends. Called her sister. No answer. No one left to text. And then, she remembered the story. A billionaire, powerful, elusive, who once helped a stranger after a heartfelt message went viral. A post she had saved months ago. It had his business number. His charity line. She didn't believe it would work. But tonight she didn't believe in anything. Her thumbs moved slowly. I'm a mother. My baby is hungry. I read what you did for someone else. I wouldn't ask if I had another choice. She didn't say her name. She didn't say she wasn't the woman from the original post. But she hit send anyway. And in that moment she felt something colder than the room around her. Shame. Because she didn't know if it was hope she'd just reached for, or a door she had no right to knock on. What she didn't know was that on the other end of that message, someone was still awake. And for the first time in weeks, someone was about to answer. She sent the message expecting silence. But silence didn't answer. Compassion did. The phone buzzed. What? Her breath caught in her throat. She stared at the screen, heart thumping harder than it should have, the way it always does when you're afraid, and want something too badly. It wasn't a delivery confirmation. It wasn't spam. It was a name. His name. Where are you? What does your baby need? 7 words. No judgment. No delay. No corporate filter. Just a man responding like a human being. Not a billionaire in a penthouse. Not an icon on a magazine. But someone asking how to help. Her eyes blurred with tears. Not from relief, not yet, but from the guilt swelling in her chest. Because this was the moment she'd feared most. He believed her. And she hadn't told him everything. She stared at the blinking cursor. Her hands shook. She could come clean. She could erase the message, block the number, pretend it never happened. But then her baby whimpered again. And something inside her shifted. Not toward manipulation but survival. Formula. Diapers. He's 3 months. I'm sorry for the message. I just didn't know who else to ask. It wasn't the full truth. But it wasn't a lie anymore either. And within minutes, his response came again. Stay where you are. Help is coming. She pressed the phone to her chest and wept. Not because things were suddenly okay, they weren't. But because, for the first time in weeks, she wasn't invisible anymore. She expected a package. She didn't expect a man to carry kindness to her door. She heard it, a soft knock. Not the loud thud of a delivery driver in a rush, but a careful, almost hesitant tap on her peeling wooden door. She opened it slowly, holding the baby to her chest, and froze. He wasn't dressed like she imagined a billionaire would be. No designer coat, no watch to flash, no entitlement in his stance. Just a man, standing in the cold, holding a bag in one hand and a baby blanket in the other. I hope I'm not overstepping, he said gently. I just thought it might feel better coming from a person, not a service. She didn't know what to say. Her throat tightened. He stepped inside only when she nodded, cautious but kind, his eyes scanning the small room not with pity but awareness. He saw the empty formula can on the counter. The baby bottle scrubbed too many times. The heating unit that clicked but didn't hum. And then he saw her. Not her mess. Not her mistake. Her effort. Is he okay? He asked, glancing at the infant. He will be, she replied, but her voice cracked. For a few minutes they said nothing more. She unpacked the bag slowly. Diapers, wipes, organic formula, even a tiny stuffed elephant. Everything new. Thoughtful. You didn't have to come, she finally whispered. He smiled. You didn't have to text me either. But I'm glad you did. And suddenly all the shame, all the fear of being found out, collapsed into one ache inside her chest. Because standing here in her living room wasn't a fantasy. It was a human being who saw through circumstance, not status. But what he didn't yet know was that the woman he thought he was helping wasn't exactly who she had claimed to be. And that truth was coming, whether she was ready or not. She was no longer afraid of being judged. She was afraid of being believed, for the wrong reasons. He had gone. Not far, just downstairs to take a call. But the moment the door clicked shut, the weight of what she hadn't said filled the room like fog. She looked at her son, now sleeping with a full belly and warm hands. She whispered as if he could understand. "He thinks I'm someone better than I am?" The truth clawed at her ribs. This man, this stranger who'd brought warmth and dignity into her quiet world, he believed in her. Not because of what she was, but because of what he thought she had been through. And now that belief felt like stolen light. She couldn't carry it anymore. That evening when he returned, she asked him to stay for tea. No grand meal. Just hot water, a chipped mug, and trembling honesty. They sat across from each other in the small kitchen. Steam rose between them, and so did her courage. "I need to tell you something," she began. "I wasn't the woman in that article. I read about her and I used her words. The story that made you respond, it wasn't mine. But the need? The fear? The hunger? That part was real. And I'm sorry." The words landed quietly. No drama. No gasps. He looked at her for a long moment, not coldly but deeply. Then he exhaled. "Thank you for saying that." She blinked. "You're not angry?" "I'm not here because of a headline. I stayed because of what I saw in your eyes, not your message." Her voice cracked. "So, what happens now?" He set down the mug gently. "Now," he said with a soft smile, "now we move forward. Honestly. Together." In that moment she realized she hadn't just told the truth to him. She had finally told it to herself. And in doing so, she hadn't lost his respect. She had earned it. Real dignity begins when someone sees your potential, not just your pain. Days turned into weeks. But this time, it wasn't just formula and grocery bags arriving at her door. It was emails with scholarship links, flyers for GED night classes, a contact from a quiet women's shelter looking for part-time help in the nursery. He never used the word charity. He never offered cash. What he offered was possibility. He asked questions, real ones. What would you do if the bills were covered? What makes you feel alive, not just responsible? When was the last time you did something for you? At first she didn't know how to answer. She was used to surviving, not dreaming. But he listened anyway. And when she didn't know what to say, he waited. He wasn't building a future for her. He was making space for her to build her own. She took a job cleaning offices at night, signed up for a Saturday writing course at the library. And one evening she picked up the phone not to ask, but to share. He said my voice was good, she texted. The teacher. He said I write like someone who's lived. His reply was simple. Because you have. She smiled. Not because everything was suddenly perfect, but because for the first time in years she was becoming someone her son could look up to, and she could believe in. Some stories don't end with a confession. They begin there. It had been 6 months. Her apartment was still small, but it felt different now. There were secondhand books beside the crib, sticky notes with vocabulary words on the fridge, and a framed photo of her and her son, both smiling, not just surviving. He didn't visit as often anymore, and she didn't need him to. They had become something else. Not a fairy tale, but a quiet, mutual respect that asked for nothing and offered everything. One afternoon she stood at a local shelter, holding her baby while helping another mother fill out a child care form. Her baby tugged at her sleeve. She smiled. The woman beside her looked exhausted, scared, familiar. You'll get through this, she said softly. I know what it feels like, when the world won't answer. The woman looked up. How? She thought of that one message. Of the man who showed up when she expected no one to. Of the choice she made to tell the truth, and how, miraculously, it wasn't the end of the story, but the beginning. Because sometimes, she said, even when you send the wrong message, it still finds the right person. And that was the miracle. Not that a billionaire had answered, but that she had found the courage to grow, and now to give back. Because help isn't just what you receive, it's what you choose to become after. We often think miracles arrive wrapped in perfection, in big headlines, flawless timing, or fairy tale luck. But sometimes, they begin with a mistake, a wrong word, a trembling message, a choice made out of fear. What matters most is not how a story starts, but what we choose to do once truth catches up with us. She could have kept the lie. He could have turned away. But instead, they met at the crossroads of honesty and compassion. And in that space, something rare happened. Not charity, not rescue, but dignity. And the quiet building of a life. One step, one breath, one act of trust at a time. So the next time someone reaches out, clumsily, imperfectly, maybe even desperately, remember, you never know if your kindness is the first light someone has seen in a very long time. Because even a broken message can still carry the power to change everything. This is such an amazing story. Dear friends, if you liked the video, give it a like and subscribe to the channel. There is still a lot of interesting things to come.